Hello everyone, it's me, teacher Jin-Yi again. Last time we discussed basic concepts of curation. Have you prepared your curatorial tasks? Now we will begin the practical work to create our virtual exhibitions. Are you ready? Let's begin! Now we will create virtual exhibition spaces of our own. Before this, we need to understand that planning an exhibition is very much like a chef crafting a big meal. You need to first prepare the ingredients. Before you prepare these ingredients, you must first understand what sort of dishes you want to make and the steps to making them, and what form these ingredients must be made into before you put them in the pot. The way you season dishes is what you do to make good food more delicious. All of these things need to be understood by the chef before she begins cooking a delicious meal and starts preparing it. The study sheet that I gave you is actually a very useful tool. Before we begin actual curation, the first thing we have to do is to plan. In this slide, we can see my curatorial task. Last week, I shared my virtual exhibition with you. I didn't immediately go to the Wix website when I created this virtual exhibition. Instead, I first planned. The time it takes to collect materials might be more than the time it takes to make the website, because it requires you to first repeatedly think through your conceptual structure. Then, once you have collected your materials, it will be easier and faster to create the website. You just have to focus on the heat control well, and you will be able to make a delicious meal. With this slide, I will again explain what your curatorial task is. Now, I'll define my curatorial project. For example, my core concept is environmental issues. My target audience can be set to the general public. The goal that I hope I can accomplish actually is that those who want to view the exhibition can respond to the environmental issues we face with a discussion and critical thinking. Because I have a background in design, my main extended activity will be to devote more attention to the exhibition's image. Of course, if time allows, I would like to create some interactions and resonance by leaving some space for discussion. This is my overall plan. So, when I create the theme of a curation, I try to think of how I am defining myself. Here, I wish to particularly emphasize that our core propositions of curation actually can't be divided between good and bad. Some think that global issues are better than life experiences. Actually, it's not that way. It's actually centered on you. When you are in a certain field, you will think that it is the most comfortable area for you. And you will think that you most want to find a focal point to speak out for this issue. That's why you would discuss this from that perspective. So, like in our last class, we discussed life experiences, human science, contemporary society, and global issues. They all are very good starting points. Everyone, when you are deciding on your own proposition, you should start with your own interests. Because it is only with the things that you are interested in that you will be able to persevere when faced with difficulties after you start. Because I am interested in nature and the environment, I really like to explore topics related to nature. Look at the title of my exhibition. What I want to do is to call on everyone to care for our planet. So, I center the name of my exhibition on the Earth. Then, I gave it the title Earth Alert. You can also see that the exhibition has 3 topics. Before I created the website, I first found corresponding artists and artworks. So, you will see that altogether I collected 12 works. Here, I need you to check on something. Before you start making your website or preparing, you have to remember the following. Each exhibition area must at least have 2 works by new media artists. So, you need to make sure that you do this. This year, I have given myself a goal. I hope that the works are all by new media artists. So, actually, through this exhibition and through gathering works of new media artists, I hope that I can find forms of works by new media artists that are all similarly focused on issues related to the Earth. We start from primitive nature, and then go all the way through industrial nature, and then to technological nature. So, there is a sort of network that connects all of them together. Your works network is actually very important because it corresponds to the logic of your thought. For example, I use words to sort out my start and my goal. This text is just like I said. I first organized it into a form like a PowerPoint slides. I even defined the differences between the exhibition areas of primitive nature, industrial nature, and technological nature. So, through writing this text, you can clarify the emphasis of your exhibition areas. Then, you can put works within these. For example, for primitive nature, what is primitive nature? Nobody would understand. Just a title. How could I make anyone understand what it is? So I defined it, saying that I hope this exhibition area can use artists' works in new media art to show the beauty and primitive power of nature. So, it will use different perspectives, languages, or even senses to display this kind of aesthetic experience. When I was writing, I could only clearly define my central concepts by using this kind of writing. Each exhibition area has its own core. There is also a method by which these cores are linked. That's how I was able to make it present a narrative in a very structured way. We also have to talk about details. Once you already have a list of artists and works, the details involve what you have to collect, apart from images, names of artists, and the names of artworks. Of course, you have to know, for instance, the decade they were created and what materials they used. What kind of exhibition space would they be likely to be displayed in? Though we are now doing virtual curation, if you were a real curator, you would even have to know which art museum the work has been placed in, or which collector has it. Only then would you have a way to contact the holder and negotiate to borrow it and display it in an art museum. This is something that a curator has to know very well. So I'm discussing this with you here. There are some curators who are attentive to detail. They will even find photos of artists or their bios. You are free to report these details as you wish. If you want to give a very intricate presentation of these details, you can add them in. If you think that you aren't that familiar with an art show experience, then I think you can put the emphasis on the artworks themselves. That is a relatively important core area. Lastly, I need to remind everyone that because we are using digital materials, it will involve copyright issues. So, while you are collecting materials, you need to deal with their sources. I must ask you to gather all of this information. Only then we can formally begin producing our virtual exhibition. I need to ask everyone to create a folder like I did. I made the text into a PowerPoint like you saw just now. I have given ordered numbers to all of the images based on my exhibition. Then, as I am producing the exhibition, I can use the images intuitively. It won't be like looking for a needle in a haystack, because some of you are very ambitious and wish to have more exhibition areas to give a deeper narrative context. While you are arranging, you will have to use these sorts of numbers. So, I want to ask you to first completely gather and organize your materials. Now, I'll share some databases that have a sense of beauty, design, or aesthetics. You can view these to develop your taste. The Japanese master designer, Manabu Mitsuno, has stated that taste is not innate. Actually, anyone can learn it, but you must continuously view and observe to be able to see the details. While we are building this kind of website, I hope that each of you can master these details. Only then can you show the value of your taste. The websites that we recommend include Pinterest. Pinterest is actually very simple. It uses images to present some design-related ideas. You can do some searching on Pinterest. Designspiration is another website. It is actually very similar to Pinterest. Design Boom is another one. If you are more interested in videos or multimedia, then I would recommend you Phoebus Median. Phoebus Median has a larger number of videos. I really hope that each of you can watch more and listen more to develop your aesthetics and sense of design, so that you can use your sense of taste when the time comes. Now, we will use Wix to build our virtual exhibition space. Please open Wix with me to build your own virtual exhibition space. As we start, the first thing you have to do is register for an account. The registration process is actually very simple. You can link to your Facebook or Google accounts, or you can even use your email. I am going to use my Google account today. After you log in, it will tell you that you can start building your first website. Let's make our first virtual exhibition space. After you click in, it will ask you what kind of web page or website you want to make. I usually choose Other. That way, it will have more options. It will be divided into left and right halves. If you choose the left half, Wix will help you make it. Of course, this is at extra charge. Going through the process of creation yourself will help you learn how to make a website. I ordinarily tell my students to use the right option. After you click in, it will have several templates for you to consider. In case some of you want to start from scratch, we'll start with a blank template first. Don't be in a rush with the blank template, because there are two options. Every template has two options. One is to view, and the other is to edit. There is one small issue. After you finish, you may have used a certain version, but you might regret it and want to switch to another style. If you want to use another style, there's no wait for it to directly switch over. You have to redo it step by step in that style. So, I recommend that you first view and compare how the templates switch between pages, the location of buttons, and the overall layout to make sure it meets your needs. For example, your curatorial proposition might be a sad issue. Then, you shouldn't choose a lively tone, and the other way around. You can spend some time browsing to see what template, what style, and what color scheme you like. Of course, these can all be modified, so don't be afraid. I'll just choose one randomly for us to view. I've selected this template that I think is very simple, and it feels well designed. Now, setting it to meet my needs, it's relatively easy. Once you confirm, you can click one of the buttons to see if the way it changes pages and its layout are in line with your plan. If you think it's okay, then you can press the edit button on the top right. Then it will take a moment to switch to the online system. Please wait patiently. You will have to wait a moment, especially if your internet speed isn't that fast. Now that it has loaded, we can look at it together. Its editor is divided into two sections. The topmost horizontal bar is divided into pages. What are these pages? Your website has a certain structure. The editor changes this into a series of pages. You can switch and choose between these pages. For example, I want to jump to the current About section. I can directly jump to it. The second editor section is actually the editor of the website. This can be used in a desktop version, or you can switch into the mobile version, because there are some people who prefer to use the mobile version of the digital tools at our current digital age. Of course, some people will want to directly focus on mobile phone users, so they will go straight into this kind of planning. Now, you can see the settings of the website here. For example, website, settings, tools, developmental modules, and instructions are here. Website is what we actually use the most. Website has save, preview, publish, and view published website. The most common thing that we do after we finish something is to save it. This will save it in your cloud storage space. When you reach a certain point, you will have to constantly preview it because it will have some slight differences with this current operation interface. If you want to update it halfway through, or if you have some updated materials, then you'll have to keep republishing it. Then it will put these into the cloud space. Of course, some of you might want to use some tools. For example, when you are editing, you might want to have a ruler or grid lines to better align things. Or you might want to use layers. You can do all of these features. These options are actually Save and Preview, which we already mentioned. Now, we will look at the menus on the left half. These menus separately are 1. The Web Page Selection menu. This is the structural content that we will have to set first. When we first set up our web page, we might have to first adjust the tone of the entire web page. We use the second menu for this. The second menu is actually more like a color scheme. We can adjust the tone of some images. We can also add some free videos, audios, or images. The third menu is what we really use the most for web page production. It includes an image editor, text editor, and many related details. The fourth menu is more like a set of plugins. You can insert them directly into your website. The fifth menu is an interface for media. For example, you can upload your folders directly into this folder in the cloud space. We have pretty much introduced the basic operation of all these menus. The website structure is very similar to a created space. The way you publish it is the same. I will use the example from our last class. We can look at the structure from my website. I have treated the first page as an entrance. I place more importance on the narrative of the concepts within the exhibition. I put them where viewers will see them when they enter the website, so they can understand why this virtual exhibition was made. I also put the sources of the materials that I use into this entrance-like space. Then, only after that, I arrange my exhibition spaces. But there might be some of you that have ideas different from mine. Maybe you hope that viewers can directly enter the exhibition space. So, when you are planning your website, you might start the exhibition space at the very beginning. Each of you has a relatively large space for choice when designing your virtual exhibition and website. You can use this Add New Page function or the structure of the web page and alter its order. This kind of website planning actually corresponds to the layout of our space. We can click into background to make some fine adjustments to basic settings. For instance, you can first adjust color. If your exhibition is a little different, you can change the entire color scheme. Secondly, you can actually adjust the layout to meet your needs. On some pages, there might be some explanatory images. You might not find them yourself. You can use the ones built into the website. It even has some videos that you can use. There are a lot of videos in this media library. You can drag them in or select them to add them to your web page. If you have your own database, you can also use this to upload all the images, videos, or audio files from the folder we prepared directly to this place. Then, we can put them onto the web page. The third button adds a new page, which is what we do most often. What does this include? It includes some options for text, some decorative patterns, and images. Now I'll explain text, which is what we use most often. Text is actually divided into theme text, titles, and paragraphs. These will all affect the feel of the design and the aesthetics of the web page. In this area, we can see that it actually allows us to give it different characteristics in its layout design. I'll drag a paragraph in for everyone to see. After we click it, we can directly drag it to the space that we want. Or, if you think it's okay where it is, then you can use copy and paste and then edit. Don't think that you're finished after you drag and drop. You can also edit the details of the text. For example, you can choose its font. It has some built-in databases that you can choose from. If this database is insufficient, you can upload the fonts that you prefer. You can also adjust size, thickness, and italicization. It's actually very similar to Microsoft Word. There's even underlined, align right, and align left. There's also, for example, the prominence of text when shading, and the distance between words or between lines. We can control all of these things. So, after you drag your text on the top or the bottom, sometimes it moves to the bottom. There will be these corresponding options. After you set these basic settings, click on the next one. You will see that it has some things, like animations. The second thing I often use is patterns and color blocks. In fact, they are just some supplementary lines and supplementary colored blocks. They can give our layouts a more individualized design. Here, in the same way, you can click or drag, and then these things will appear. Many decorative lines, designs, or images are all built in for your use. Let's browse them for a moment. That's good. I hope that when you are choosing, you do your best to follow the tone of your core proposition to find the most suitable option. Now we are going to begin looking at how we place images. Images on Wix are split between images where you can do simple image placement or you can choose from the database. These have already been edited. Of course, if you want something dynamic, you can choose from interactive images or strips to embed into your web page. If you want to juxtapose text and images, you can do it with the list and grid. When we look at them one by one, you'll notice that Wix is great. It provides many free images and graphics. These can all be used without paying. You can even get your own videos from your social media or your online cloud and use them in conjunction as supplementary images. I recommend the image gallery because I actually really like it. I say this because it has already done the layout for these for you. So, when your layout is set up, you just have to select the layout you like. You just have to click and drag and drop. You can see that I really like this layout, so I'll just drag and drop. Then, choose its size. We can put it right in. I can also change its images one by one to change the images that I don't like. I can edit it and place it. I might be able to finish my web page very quickly. In images here, if some of you prefer something more interactive or something that only changes when you click it, then you can use full-width slideshows or box slideshows. Those will be more suitable for you. After you drag and drop, you will see that it makes each page into something like a PowerPoint. Then, you just set up your PowerPoint. You can just click and there will be some dynamic switching. Just now, we mentioned strips. There are some people that really like to use strips. I think these strips have actually been organized. For example, the versions on these pages are very suitable for an entrance. Or they could be used for a team introduction. If you look at my entrance, you will see that I used the team introduction from Wix website and then made some changes. So, these are all layouts that have already been designed. If you like them, then you can employ them and alter them freely. Now, we are going to look at the section on video, music, buttons, and hyperlinks. I want to tell you all the videos and music are here. Similarly, you can click or drag and drop to embed them into your web page. You can record something yourself. Of course, you can also use the built-in materials. I will now explain buttons. There are a lot of symbols here. You can also use text as a button. So, why do I specially need to explain buttons? Some of you might be very skilled. For this one, they embedded it into their web page. You can link to your own YouTube channel. For instance, this student linked her YouTube channel. Hello everyone, I am Chuang Yuxun, responsible for looking back this time. I will be introducing visible gravity field from Einstein, Life in 4 Dimensions. You can see that she instantaneously becomes an exhibition guide. So, she is not only a curator, she is also a guide. She was very clear about her overall plan, so it became a cross-temporal setting for communication with viewers. So, I think that when you are producing your virtual exhibition, there are actually a lot of details to be considered. These details can be added according to how you view your abilities, your ideas, or your own opinions. The web page production that I taught you today can be used for more than just virtual exhibitions. In the future, you could apply it when starting a business. You could also use it for blogging. Wix actually also has some plugins that can make your website design very special. For instance, I used a message board to create a discussion area. That way, I can create some interactivity with viewers and the public. I think this part is great. You can even, for example, create a forum or, if you start a business, set up your payment methods. I need to remind you that you have to remember to constantly save once you have finished your website. It will save it for you in the online cloud space. Then, if you make any updates, click Publish, and it will publish them to the cloud space. You can constantly update your virtual exhibition. Everyone, our class is now coming to an end. I'm sure that through these 3 classes, you have learned the basic concepts of curation and learned how to use Wix to create your own virtual exhibition. I want to remind you that today, we used digital media and learned some digital tools to take the things that we know and use our own method to communicate with the world. I know that you all are very smart, so I am sure that you will be able to apply this in the future. For example, you might transform your literary works or scientific inquiries into digital materials and use a cloud space to connect with your audience. This is a curatorial activity broadly defined. I'm sure that through the learning project of this class, you have laid a very good foundation. I hope that you can each apply this in your future lives. My class ends here. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye!